Good evening, my dear friends. It's Emmanuel John here. Today is Monday, the 9th of February. I'm here with my very good friend, Nicholas de Santo. I have a little preview here for whoever immediately aware of Nicholas.
That's
Well,
me.
what was the big deal? Women are posting bikini pictures all over the place, all the
A
time.
little sample.
And I said, Peter, it's not about that. It's not up to you to objectify women. It's up to women to objectify themselves with a bikini of their choice, with a filter of their choice, in the gym locker room of their choice, on the platform of their choice with a view of monetizing their body. You gotta respect the titties, the sanctities, the sanctity. You gotta respect the sanctity of.
That was an epic one,
You
by the
gotta
way.
respect the sanctity
Thank you.
of thirst traps.
You know, my first question actually tonight, Nicholas, welcome to the show, is
Thanks.
Is that something you wing straight from the head right at that moment, or did you write? How do you get started with such, really unique jokes, of course, play on words, etc.
So, well, remind me which one because I don't have the audio. So I'm guessing it was about the whole Glock scandal.
It's the joke about the sanctity. So you said it came straight, last moment to you.
Yeah, that was a little bonus because I mean, and I think I got lucky because it came to me very late. There's always stuff you have prepared and ideally rehearsed, maybe in other smaller clubs or checked maybe with your friends or something. And some stuff happens to you on the train as you're going to the club. um, so the original and initial idea was trying to make it funny based on this element of hypocrisy or um, if you like, double standards. So
Correct.
the idea I was going for was, yeah, these people um, are mad. And I was watching the whole session in the UK Parliament. They are mad at this outrageous uh, violation of women's privacy or dignity because they go on Grok on X and ask Grok to put them in bikinis.
Bikinis.
But then again, you open Instagram, or is it just my feed? It's full of scantily clad ladies,
Correct.
and I have a little personal or professional issue with this as well. I have a bone to pick with this because a lot of so-called comedians also use this, right? So it's
Correct.
not just presenting your comedy and then see what happens, or presenting whatever art or craft you have. They use these, the American term is thirst traps.
Correct.
And then I was told thirst trap is not really understood in Britain. I don't know. That's also interesting. Some expressions do not travel across the
The
pond.
pond, yeah.
So yeah, these thirst traps are everywhere. So the idea is, or the funny idea is, this contrast between, of course, them having the agency to exploit their own looks, and then this, in my opinion, rather innocent or cheeky trend of men on Grok going after mainly politicians, right? So if I think if you're a politician who raises people's taxes and imposes arbitrary lockdowns and digital IDs and digital currencies and threaten them to get ready for the war in Ukraine and jail them for naughty tweets and you name it. I think it's a
Correct.
fair game if they go on Grok and tell the Grok to put you in a bikini. I don't think it's the worst, violation in the whole world. So
Correct.
that's the idea I'm going for. But then
Correct.
it just came to me that yes, sanctities. There's a
And
little bit, and I'm a sucker for
titties.
no pun intended, or
Well,
was it? I'm a sucker for languages, right? Um,
correct.
so
Yes.
every now and then you want to play, you want to wordplay, you want to be a multifaceted, versatile kind of comic.
Correct.
It's about ideas, it's about the element of surprise, and sometimes it's about a silly wordplay. So why not?
Correct. That was hilarious. I thought
Oh,
I
thank you.
just, I dropped my coffee when when I saw
Okay.
that one. So, Nicholas, you're Italian, right? So you're used to corruption and chaotic politics. When you look at the UK right now, does it feel just like home?
Yeah, even worse.
Even
I
worse.
mean, Italy has kind of been redeemed, right? Because when I was
A little bit.
younger, people would laugh about Italy because we would change too many prime ministers. Now, obviously, you are in Belgium, so you
Correct.
know better
Yeah,
about shaky governments or non-existing governments.
correct.
But over the past few years in the UK, we've had several prime ministers. In the
Correct.
past 2 or 3 years in Italy, we've had just the one.
Yes.
And then in the UK, we have had, I don't know, three or four. One of them lasted less than 50 days. Uh,
Correct.
and again, in terms of corruption, our prime minister, I don't know by the time your show is posted, by the time this episode is posted, our prime minister might be gone because of the
Correct.
Epstein files and connection.
Correct.
We've had all sorts of scandals. We've had a um, prime minister of Indian origin whose wife had huge assets overseas. We had his
Correct.
predecessor, David Cameron, and others who had assets again overseas, tax avoidance,
Correct.
while we have to pay. Um, this current prime minister, he has he lost his vice premier because she hadn't paid property tax over her one of her three apartments, or possibly more than that one.
Yes.
Now he himself is in trouble. So we've had, you know, I just think Italians get a hard time because they're simply too good looking and too too white to be, and
Correct.
too rich to, get any sympathies. They're just fair game because there's no
Correct.
political cost in having a go at the Italians.
Yes. Well, let's have a quick look, ladies and gentlemen, of Keir Starmer apologizing.
Is not and must never become a political game. The victims of Epstein have lived with trauma that most of us can barely comprehend, and they've had to relive it again and again. They have seen accountability delayed and too often denied.
Does that mean he will he could resign, or do you think what's the chance of that happening?
The chances are now looking very high.
Very high.
As I said, this government has been a disaster after disaster. They've broken so many promises,
Correct.
you name it. From from breaking their promises on fuel energy and not raising taxes. One of the first things they did, they removed subsidies for old people, for pensioners, uh, fuel allowance. So basically
Yes.
condemning elderly, vulnerable people to the dilemma of heating or eating, believe it or
It's
not. And of
crazy.
course, in the UK, we are arguably paying the highest energy prices in the whole Western world because they are uh, dead set on the so-called um, green energy and the so-called net zero. I have
Correct.
videos and jokes on that too. Um, in a way, I'm sorry he's going because a lot of my jokes will be gone with him. But that's another story. I don't want to be selfish.
You know,
Um,
we
they they decided to return Chagos Islands in the Indian
correct.
Ocean to Mauritius. That got Trump angry because they are sharing a base. The UK is sharing a base in the island of
Diego
Diego
Garcia.
Garcia,
Correct.
so they might have to backtrack and backpedal on that decision. We will see. Um, Grooming gangs. We were talking about
Oh
Epstein
man.
files, but thousands of British girls were abused, and he was the head of the Crown prosecution in those years and didn't
Mm,
do much about it. And not just that, once he became the prime minister, his government vehemently opposed an inquiry or a new inquiry into that matter. It's ironic that now he's losing his job over Epstein files,
right.
but we had our own Epstein case here in this country, right?
Yes.
And And what else did I forget? I've certainly forgotten something because so many. So did you know
Yes.
that his house? Did you know that his house was petrol bombed by Ukrainian male prostitutes?
Ah,
Keir
no.
Starmer. Yeah, that was another story.
Oh man.
And then hundreds of people jailed for tweets for social media posts, and
Yeah,
then he goes
that's
to the White
ridiculous.
House and brazenly and uh, openly says we have freedom of speech in Britain and we are quite proud of it. What free speech are you talking about?
It's absolutely
So
ridiculous.
so yeah, he has survived so many scandals, but it's ironic that the last one or the last straw is going to be
Epstein.
Epstein files because we had our own Epstein files, and that that big day when the trade deal was announced between the US and UK, and this was a televised live event from the White House. And Trump was talking to Starmer on the phone, and who was standing behind Trump? Then Lord Mandelson, the UK
Correct.
ambassador to the US, and giving a report, and President Trump praised him for his beautiful British accent. So now that guy that guy is gone, of course, and now looks like he is also because as I'm speaking to you right today, the head of the Labour Party in Scotland came out and said we need a change in Downing Street. So it looks pretty much like a done deal. Obviously, they have a big majority in the parliament. Somebody
Hmm.
else will replace him. But again, that's another thing that if it happened in Italy, and when it happened in Italy, it was a big scandal. As you know, there won't be a general election. So we will have a prime minister who hasn't been elected by the people. Because they won the election, they
Correct.
are supposed to run the government no matter what. So last time round, when people went to the polls, they knew Keir Starmer would be the prime minister if his party won. But then when he has to step down, there is no general election. Only there will be an internal election within the Labour Party and someone else will become the new prime minister. So some might call that a democracy deficit.
Correct.
Again, when Italians do this stuff, it's a
Correct.
scandal. But here in Britain, it happens quite often
Yes, correct. Speaking
nowadays.
of Italy, right? As an Italian, you probably have Berlusconi, right? And the British have Prince Andrew in terms of the scandals when it comes.
Well,
But
yeah,
of
but
course, Prince
hang on a minute.
Andrew was on a different
Berlusconi,
level, right?
yeah. I mean, let me tell you a joke about Berlusconi by Berlusconi.
Okay.
So there was a survey in Italy, and in that survey, 40% of Italian women said they would like to have sex with Berlusconi. 40%.
Wow.
And when asked, the other 60%, when asked, they said, what, again? So that was a joke about Berlusconi by Berlusconi himself. But Berlusconi was our Trump. He was the
Yes.
first populist, and I mean populist in a good way, not in a disparaging way.
No, correct.
But he was the one from outside politics who he was a guastafeste, a party pooper, if you like, because they
Yes.
thought we are politicians, we are career politicians, this is our territory. And then this guy came from outside and ruined the party. And of course, he was charismatic and he had his own money, just like Trump,
Correct.
So just like they did it with Trump, they they raised hell and they weaponized the judiciary. So it was incredible that a 50-year-old, 60-year-old who was already a billionaire
Correct.
didn't have any cases against him. The moment he becomes the prime minister, all
That's funny.
these judiciary cases. And a lot of this stuff is obviously was made of, and again, a lot of them happened allegedly in Russia, just like the Trump case. Right? Yeah, he had orgies and he had, but Berlusconi was very, very frank, and he was naughty, and he would talk about, his attitudes or his naughtiness, and he was quite open about it. So it was no shock. And
Correct.
I'm not saying that all those allegations, because nothing was ever proved. A
Yes.
lot of it was seriously, it was just hot air. But
Mm.
he never ran on a platform on a Puritan, moral, Christian, practicing platform. And he
No.
was separated. So there was no cheating on his wife. So it's totally different from Prince Andrew, who
Correct.
would use allegedly. We don't know because
Yeah.
no trial was held, right?
Yeah.
He was never tried. They settled outside the court. But he would allegedly use his position as a prince to engage in relations with vulnerable minors, right? That is
That's
the
sick.
scandal. In case
Correct.
of Berlusconi, again, no
It was
allegation
all
was ever
nines and
proved,
tens.
but it's very likely that it was all hot air because they
Correct.
just couldn't forgive this guy who stopped the Communist Party in Italy to go to the government for the first and only time in history. They they couldn't forgive him for that.
Correct. Wow. That's a history lesson, people. Did you hear that, Berlusconi? He was
I had
also a
to
very
defend
good,
Berlusconi.
but he's also a good friend of Putin. And I saw that when he passed away, Putin was quite upset about it because I
Mhm.
think he's a pragmatist, and I see that in Europe we don't have any of those who are willing to speak to Putin and end this garbage in Ukraine.
So in that he's a bit similar to Trump. He actually wanted Russia to join the G7, and Russia did join the G7, and it was G8 for a while. And
Yes,
again,
correct.
it would have been in everybody's interest, right? The war in Ukraine would have been avoided. And I'm not saying I'm
Totally.
totally pro Putin, but I do believe that the West didn't treat the Russians right, and this ever increasing non-stop expansion of NATO and the EU towards the east was against the initial promises. But yeah, he had good relations with Putin. He had very good relations with Erdogan, the Turkish prime minister. That is maybe one of the few areas where I don't agree with Berlusconi because he did want to bring Turkey into the European Union. Now,
Mm.
I think the European Union must be dissolved in the first place.
Ah.
But if you want to keep it, I don't think Turkey should ever come to the inside the European Union. So that is something I disagreed with Berlusconi on, but there aren't many.
Well, indeed, and that's the nuance that we could agree on a lot of things on Trump, but there's also a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily have to agree. But that's the beauty of politics. We live in in a maze of opinions, folks, and you got to make up your own mind, do your own research. Now, you brand yourself as a conservative comedian, and you're quite open about it. When the Epstein list dropped and implicated people on both sides, Clinton, Trump is in the files too. Do you feel like finally the content writes itself, or do you more?
Not really. I don't know. I'm a bit struggling because maybe it's a bit too bleak, or maybe too many people are talking about it, so there isn't much room to shine. It's a bit, I mean, I have to come up with something because especially when you do topical comedy, right?
Correct.
Um, but obviously when everybody's talking about it, a lot of jokes are being made on X, as we see. A lot of jokes or attempts at jokes have been made on X. So
Correct.
by the time, and this is true of all topical issues, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's Greenland or Gaza, you name it.
Everything.
By the time I go on stage, people have seen all those jokes or many of those jokes. So the challenge is to come up with something fresh
And unique.
and even better. So that's that. And at the same time, the topic is a touchy topic, obviously. So there's also a high risk of, people shutting down, or you don't want to
Absolutely.
diminish the victims.
No,
Uh, so
absolutely
I'm not
not.
saying you must be staying away from that. I'm just saying I have a bit I've been a bit struggling to come up with anything funny or funny enough about it. So we will see how it goes.
And that's the thing. Maybe, it became too much of a joke for so many years, the Epstein thing, that now that actually everything is out, it starts to feel like, damn, the more you dig deeper into the terminology, the pizza, the ice cream, and all these little words and
Mm.
references so many times, it's actually disgusting. And yeah, it's absolutely amazing that nobody goes to prison for me. And folks, if you are curious about um there we are. We have our video from 2 days ago. I recorded it. Should the royal creep go to prison? If if proven, folks. We still live in a Western society. We still live in, you should be able to prove your innocence or prove that a person is guilty. But I had made a video about this topic. It was fun. Go check out my channel. In the meantime, Nicholas, the fun part about, we saw names like Stephen Hawking and David Copperfield in the files. As a comedian, how do you even write a joke about Stephen Hawking? As an origin,
I
without
haven't
getting
so far.
canceled.
I
Be-
I haven't so far, but that's something to think about. But I must say I'm not very well versed in the Epstein files. Obviously, I hear stuff,
yes,
and but
there are 3 million
um,
files, so it's gonna take a long time to go through it all and understand what was going on.
yeah,
Um,
I have friends who are doing that, and I'm just saying, are you? Why are you doing that? Um, you can find some elements that are not necessarily sleazy or bleak, but also give room for something funny to be said. Like
right.
this stupid mistake, I believe, when Pam Bondi, the U.S. Attorney General, told people, "Yeah, the files are on my desk," and it was most likely something metaphorical. Like there wasn't. People thought, "Oh, there's a ring binder with
With
who knows
files.
what." And then a few months later, she said, "No, there's no file." So everybody was like, "What do you mean?" So um, now I don't remember his name. Who is this comic who impersonates Trump and is really good? Shane Gillis.
Shane Gillis, yes. He's
So
hilarious.
he did a joke about Epstein files. I don't remember what, and then said Pam Bondi is going to deny that joke ever existed. So he's poking fun at Pam Bondi's inappropriate remark
Correct.
that kind of incriminated herself by claiming there was a file and then claiming there wasn't. So you can still find funny elements without going too much into the bleak part. But
Correct.
yeah, maybe I'll come up with something funny.
Great. Why do you think, do you feel like, because we saw the other day during, I don't know if you noticed, during the Grammys, um, there's this whole discussion from Billie Eilish
Yeah,
um, about no one is illegal on stolen land. And now that a lot of these celebrities are just getting called out, including Super Bowl yesterday or day before was terrible. The ratings were not as good, and Bad Bunny was all over the place doing, yeah, I don't know, a reunification of the America kind of routine going on over there with a lot of flags. And do you think that that really helps Mr. Trump and the MAGA movement, or do you think?
well, I should hope so because
Correct.
they just they are their own ruin. They're shooting themselves in the foot, aren't they? And they
Absolutely.
never learn. They never. So they take an institution, something people love, and something which is not political, like the Super Bowl or
Mhm.
NBA. Here in the UK, football or soccer, Hollywood, Little Mermaid, Cinderella. Now we have a Black Helen of Troy on Netflix, Bud Light beer, you name it. So these are things people enjoy, people have grown up with. It's a Hans Christian Andersen fable, or it's a Hollywood movie. It's James Bond. It's a reboot of uh, superheroes. Batman, Superman, you name it, and they destroy it by making it a black lesbian or twerking in the halftime on Super Bowl day. So it puts people off. First of all, they lose money because people, when Sports Illustrated starts preaching you about your politics, people buy it less. People
Absolutely.
pay for fewer subscriptions. So it's economically is go woke, go broke, the famous saying. So economically, it's damaging to themselves, but also politically, Democrats basically repulse people on their own. So I think, yeah, eventually it will be damaging to them. But in the meantime, they're also just ruin a good thing. So you're a hardworking American or Englishman, whoever, and you want to turn on the TV and watch your football or soccer or
Correct.
your beloved superhero, Batman, Superman, whoever it is. And instead you are being lectured and preached by NBA or by Super Bowl or by your beer or your bank or your shampoo company. It's everywhere. So
It's incredible, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's
And
not good, and hopefully they will pay the price.
yes, and do you think Donald Trump is in a good position going into the midterms, for example, in November?
Um, well, it depends on the states. From what I've been hearing and watching, there are some tricky areas,
Correct.
and looks like Democrats have sensed or have smelled blood,
Mm-hmm.
primarily because of this whole ICE affair in Minnesota, right? They
Correct.
managed to make it messy or make it look messy, and stirring some emotions in people by putting it in front of cameras. So they think they have kind of put the administration on the back foot on that issue. Well, it remains to be seen, but doesn't necessarily mean that on other issues they can push Democrats, they can push the Republicans back. But they think they have a chance, they have momentum. We will see. It's going to be tough in some areas, some of those purple territories.
Mm,
Um, I
very
hope
good.
Republicans will pull it off because obviously they can't lose the Senate. I think it's
Yeah,
the Senate where the seats are much closer. Uh, because if they lose the Congress, then it's almost game over because it's going to be, you know, a
a lame
block
duck.
after block, obstacles, and
Correct.
just sabotage.
Mm. And I think Americans indeed have a very important choice to make. But they need to remind themselves as well, because a majority of them, including the popular vote and the Electoral College, handed it to Donald Trump, knowing fully well that he said himself that he would deport as many as he could. He was
Yeah,
very transparent about it. He would shut down the border. There would be tariffs, all of which he has done, folks. So there was always going to be backlash from the
and
other side.
overall he's been doing a good job. But
Yeah,
again, the
the
media and
optics.
Hollywood personalities, they can make their narrative, right? They can put some stuff on a TV camera and then play at people's sensibilities. Oh, they are separating families. Well, guess what?
Yeah,
If the father is a criminal, he goes to jail. Family separated. It's
yeah,
always
correct,
been like that. And ironically, the number of deportations is still lower than what Obama did or what previous administrations did. But of course,
correct.
the media were not packaging it as
As
tyranny
a
or as
win.
fascism or as heartless agents of law enforcement separating families and all that. Um, but I think in terms of the border, he's done very well in terms of prices. I mean, I can tell you, he claims he has reduced prices a lot, and I'm going to do a show in Ohio
Mm.
on April 15th with my friend Brian Swinehart. So I took this opportunity to plug my show, our joint show, me and Brian Swinehart in Springfield, Ohio. And I told him, okay, how much are the tickets? How much are we selling the tickets for? He said $10. And I said, gee, I thought Trump was joking when he said he's reduced the prices. $10? I'm flying to Ohio for $10 per ticket. So there you go. Trump has done a fantastic job. Everything is cheap.
Correct. Well, it's also easy to just look at the graph on Google. People, you need to Google. Of course, you need to vote with your feet, economics. And Donald Trump was always better than Kamala Harris, let's be real, and Joe Biden. Um, let's go into a quick hypothetical. Like, you were given the unredacted Epstein list, right? But you only have 24 hours before the government takes it back. Do you publish it all and risk your life, or do you just look up which comedians are on it so you can roast them?
um, I publish it, but I mean, if I publish it, why would I be at risk anyway? Because you'd be at risk if they fear you might, talk, right? But once it's over, I guess I'll publish it and go to Argentina, go into
Go
hiding.
into hiding.
Yeah.
If you had, so a quick fire round, like, questions. Dinner with Prince Andrew or a weekend at a minimalist art exhibit with a woke activist? It's a
Oh,
tough one.
gee. How long is the dinner? Do I have to make eye contact? Do I have to make small talk?
You might have to. He is prince. He is the prince, right?
Minimalist art. What was that again? What was the other
A
option?
weekend at a minimalist art exhibit with a woke activist.
Okay, so art exhibit means a lot of installations.
Correct. Or it could just be
The
one of those people who's like banging their heads on the floor. Or
that's a
it,
so it's gonna be
it's
performative,
it's a woke activist,
performative art.
so I don't know. You might see them throwing soup at something.
Hmm.
Could
Dinner
it
with
could it
Prince
be that
Andrew.
one?
Yeah, I can.
Good.
I've seen those performances or performative art uh works on X.
Correct.
It's too much.
It seems to me that they need to bring back certain institutions, back in Europe, in America. Um, okay, dinner with Prince Andrew. Yeah, of course. You will have to make small talk as long as he doesn't want to
Do
know
I
the
have to
color.
pay for dinner by the way? Because now
No.
that he's skinned, I don't
So,
know how much of his privileges he has lost financially speaking. If he
wow,
still
I
has
think they
a
always get paid.
stipendium.
Daddy, can I have some more? Can Stephen Hawking on an island or David Copperfield doing magic tricks at a funeral?
Yeah, I was never very good at physics. And now Stephen Hawking on that island, I don't know. Yeah, I'd rather see the magic tricks.
All
Yeah, these are
right.
tough though. Yeah, kudos.
And what about Meloni or Thatcher?
Oh, that's easy. Meloni, absolutely Meloni.
Yes. And it's yeah, I love that you mentioned it that Trump called her a beautiful woman, right? And that
Yeah,
triggered a lot of people indeed.
even worse, a young, beautiful woman.
Yeah. Well, that was indeed a funny moment. So Nicholas, where can we when is the next show? I hear that you've been to Brussels. I missed out on that opportunity. When are you coming to Belgium? We
A
need some
friend of mine,
dates.
I don't have a date for, and thanks for showing my Etsy shop for my
Yes,
merch.
correct.
Um, so I have a friend who came to the Brussels show. That was the first time we met actually, but he liked the show and he says he knows a very good community in Antwerp. He's from Antwerp. So right
Correct.
now, sadly, he has some family problems, but we should talk later this month. And hopefully, I'll be coming to Antwerp soon to do a show. And
Woo.
obviously, I'll keep you posted on that. If people go to my YouTube channel, which is
Right
called
here.
Nicholas de Santo Anglo Italian Comedy,
Correct.
there you go. So you see in the description, but most importantly, under the videos, I put links to my upcoming shows, which is also they can also see my Linktree website. So,
Yes, the
um,
link tree. Yay. There you go, folks. You need to go down
yeah. So for
here.
example, yeah, that's the first Ohio show. There will be more. That's Springfield. That's Brian. And then underneath that, there's a gig in Banbury, Oxfordshire. Maybe not many people live there. But I don't know who's watching this, but yeah. But under the videos, I put links to my upcoming shows. As I said, I'll be doing a few shows in Ohio in April. This is the first one, which is confirmed, and
Nice.
then in May, this is brand new. In late May, early June, I'll be in Israel doing a bunch of shows there.
Ooh.
Uh,
You might
yeah,
have
but
a strong fan base over there.
oh yeah, hopefully, yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. But the links are not out because this is quite fresh.
Correct.
But yeah,
Wow.
that's my link tree under my videos on my YouTube channel or on X. I'm at Nico underscore DeSanto.
Correct.
My merch shop is called Anglo Italian Bottega. Thanks for showing that. Yes.
Yes. Anglo
And
Italian Bottega. You have
I'm
some of the nicest t-shirts.
oh, thanks very much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're
very.
priced very, very good. So, guys, girls, well, guys, go go get one. Support our friend Nicholas over here. Wow, I'm really excited for you. It's great. I think Banbury sounds like a very 95% Caucasian neighborhood. So I think you might have a lot of audience over there.
Yeah, I've been there before, but
Okay, you have.
this is the first time I'm headlining the show with a friend of mine. So yeah, it should be a
Okay,
good gig.
nice.
Um, and
That
there
should
will
be
be more
fun.
gigs with Comedy Unleashed next month in March, but there will be more links. At some point, I'll do my own proper website, but for now, I have the Linktree, which
Yes, you
kind of
see,
does the
he's a
job.
hardworking guy. So he's going out to Ohio, America, speaking to different people. So my audience, go out there, support Nicholas. You need to subscribe to him. He's really funny. He's hilarious. I like the way he makes comedy. Um, who are your comedy greatest of all time? Who are the people you listen to and say, "Wow, that was hilarious," or um,
Um, Good question. Of course, there are different styles, and different times, different moods. You listen to different people. One of my absolute favorites was Norm Macdonald, a Canadian comic who moved to the US, was a performer on
correct?
Saturday Night Live, I think in late 90s, early 2000s. Very funny guy. I liked him a lot. Christian guy, I would say conservative leaning, not overly political, but definitely
He's
not
hilarious.
woke. Very
Correct.
brave, very funny, and very smart, but always played someone who is not smart. Sadly, he died a couple of years ago. Sometimes people compare me to Norm,
Oh,
and they say, "Oh, Norm Macdonald is alive," or "You remind me of Norm Macdonald." For me, it's a
it's a
massive compliment.
privilege.
Other
Wow.
than that, I like myself a bit of Jerry Seinfeld every now and then, or Brian Regan, another American comic who is very clean and family friendly.
Wow.
I like him a lot.
Yes.
And of course, in America, I have to mention my two good friends. I have opened for them in Boston and in Florida. That is Leonarda Joni, who is a rare gem, I would say, a female comic who is actually funny. We
Oh,
don't
wow.
agree on Israel, but we have a
Yes,
lot
I've seen her stuff. She's
in
hilarious.
common.
Correct.
And
She's
and
hilarious.
Quinn Dale, who is her fiance, and Quinn is also very tongue in cheek,
Okay.
not woke at all, um, very funny, quick fire jokes, many one-liners, goes after ethnicities, does uh, dodgy, dodgy in a good way, but by dodgy I mean tricky, risky, ethnic jokes. Leonardo as well. I had a great time being their support act in Boston and in Tampa, in Orlando.
Wow.
I I would like to do that again. So that's that. And in the UK, also, I have a bunch of comics I like. My Scottish friend Leo Kearse is someone I like a lot. I used to like Eddie Izzard.
Mm-hmm.
He was a lefty even then, but then he became non-binary and turned into Eddie slash Susie Izzard and doesn't do much stand-up anymore anyway. But I liked his material. It was very funny and very smart. But now he's in different waters and doesn't do
Hmm.
much comedy.
Wow. It's amazing. That's and how often are you Are you busy with writing jokes? Are you the whole time in your mind running through jokes? Or is it in the evenings when you have a moment to yourself, you write them down? Do you write it down at all? Or how does that work for you?
Good question. I don't really sit down. You, do you know Snoopy?
Yeah,
You know Snoopy, the comic strip, and there was one
correct.
funny cartoon I remember because he was a writer or an aspiring writer, and he was telling his friend, "You know what is my biggest source of inspiration? Last minute panic." So I don't sit down to write unless the gig is tomorrow or this evening.
Tomorrow, okay.
But I don't do that from scratch. I have stuff in my head and I'm playing with them as I'm getting about my business on the train elsewhere. And then when it becomes a bit more concrete, I write it down and try to on my phone actually, not pen and paper. But then when the gig is very close, I'm actually traditional. I need to write it on pen and paper and cross things out and add them because on the phone it feels so, I don't
Yeah.
know, unreal. So you just like to read it and then fold it and put it in my pocket and go on stage. It has to be on my pocket to
Okay.
feel
Well,
I can. I never go to the. I also write it on my like write notes or cues on my palms. So I've never needed to pull out the paper from my pocket. But yeah.
mm.
So
Tricks of the
maybe one
trade.
day I'll get to get with a friend and sit for a writing session. But I haven't done that yet. Might be cool. Some sort of
Wow.
writing session or something like that.
And do you have, apart from these, any other projects coming out? Are you writing a book, maybe something funny, or not yet? A book of jokes, you know?
I don't know. I'd like to have a book or my name on a book. I don't know what to like to make it an autobiography or like about my comedy journey. So it's not very serious right now. My project right now is just to try to grow and do more gigs, maybe appear on some cool TV show in America, or
Mhm.
maybe get better and bigger venues. Um,
Cool.
so yeah, and I think I'm going in the right direction.
Yes, you are.
Um,
Y-
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Thank you.
No, I think it's usually the YouTube algorithm that's always pushing down. You could publish something really pro-Ukrainian and it would get a million views, but if you were to say something neutral about the war, it just doesn't. I can see the bias on a daily basis on a lot of things in the algorithm too. And while there's a lot of audience that looks for a lot of conservative comedians, and there are a lot of different channels. But I think you really stand out because, yeah, I followed you already for a couple of years, ever since you started with the channel. I think I discovered, and I was like, wow, you're really funny. And I'm glad
Thank
that I
you.
could really speak to you. Um, Last
I,
question for you before you head out. I know you've had a lovely day, but our audience would like to know. You're made Prime Minister for the UK for 24 hours. What is the first law you are passing?
okay. I know this is going to be controversial, but maybe we talked about this before. But I'm going to rescind women's right to vote. At least a moratorium of 5 years
till they till we know what's happening,
till we
yes.
see what's happening. Right? Who's coming in? Who's coming?
Who's coming
Who-
in?
Why?
You know
Why are they
exactly the
acting like
reference.
this? We did
But
this experiment, didn't work. They vote
oh
for
man.
open borders, and as I have said on my sets, often several times, they vote for open borders, and then they're surprised that they feel insecure on the streets. And Albert Einstein famously said the definition of insanity is when white women keep voting for open borders and still complain about lack of security on the streets of London. So,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
Albert Einstein called it out. He was a smart guy.
Yes, he was super smart.
So we
But
need to do something about it.
women, if you're hearing this, stop voting. No, we're
I can
just kidding.
afford to say that because I think 90% of my YouTube fans are male anyway, but there are a few good women who who
Absolutely.
who who understand reason,
Yes, I'm very fortunately
and I
married to
appreciate
one,
them.
so which is really good. Well, Nicholas, you have been really fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. It was
You're
really
very kind.
wonderful to get to know you. I know you're going to be busy, so I will point the audience to Nicholas again. So Nicholas de Santo, follow him on X, guys and girls. He's one of the real, conservative comedians, clean stuff. You can actually watch it with, younger kids, not necessarily the babies, but you
Sure,
can't do that with Chappelle. You cannot do that with Kevin Hart because there's just way too much cussing and all these things. But, when you have a clean act, you're much more easier to listen to. And wow, lovely. If you're in Ohio, Springfield, well, a lot depends on you in November, so you best know who you're voting for. At least vote for cheap gas prices, and you know who will deliver on that. And then, if you're in Ohio, my friends, you need to go see Nicholas, right? Support our friend over here. If you're in Banbury, you need to go out and see Nicholas because it's comedy you will laugh with. Go check out his merch on his Etsy. He's got cool t-shirts. Check out my channel, of course. It takes effort, but I love to bring people like Nicholas on board, get him to I'm only on my video 15, but we're getting there.
sure.
And absolutely, buy me a coffee too, and buy Nicholas a coffee too, if you can. That would really help us. Nicholas, thank you for being an early supporter of this show. I really appreciate it. And I hope, we get to talk to you when you're back from Ohio. You can tell me all about what's going on in America, and we can have a nice little discussion. Yeah,
With pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for the very flattering feedback, and I hope I'll have that show in Antwerp as well and see you in person too.
absolutely. Folks, if he's coming to Antwerp, I'm going. And if I'm going, I'm bringing friends. So it's gonna be fun. Nicholas, you've been lovely. Thank you so much for your time. My dear friend, subscribe to Nicholas. Let's get him more subscribers. He needs to have 1 million subscribers. He needs to have bigger venues because he's hilarious. All right,
Amen to
let's make
that.
it happen. Amen to that. Nicholas, I wish you a lovely evening. Thank you, my friend. See you later. Enjoy the rest of the week. It's still a Monday. We still have to work, folks. Bye bye.
Likewise,
Take care, my
Emmanuel.
friend.
Thank you.
Have a nice
You
evening.
too.
Bye bye. Bye.
God bless.